Perfect. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Yellow Line live stream on the Toby Christie YouTube and Facebook pages. Also, the Above the Yellow Line Twitch page. My name is Taylor, if you don't know me, and I'm joined by Ben, ATYL crew member. We love Ben. Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a pretty chill week overall. Just kind of hanging out. It's sweater weather
Yes.
here. Finally got my Costco sweater out for the day. But it's good fall weather. Getting excited. It's almost spooky season, so I'm getting some Halloween movies ready to go. So
I will say, I already have Halloween decorations up around the studio. They're not visible yet, but they're here. There's a notable presence.
well, like the lights, I bought them a year
Yeah.
ago. They're Halloween lights. They're purple and orange, and I've just left them up. So
See,
it's been
we're here for Halloween. Like, for, we're probably gonna do a show. I mean, we're gonna do a show the week of Halloween, and we're gonna get spooky. We dressed up last year, and that was super
yeah, I
fun.
got to be here this year and dress up. So
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about it. We're gonna talk Bristol. We also have Stephen Mallozzi joining us in a few minutes. So we'll bring him in. Definitely, if you have any questions for him, leave them in the chat. John, good to see you, and thank you so much. The Obi-Wan shirt. There's the Ahsoka show that just came out. I haven't watched it yet, but I really want to. But just not beginner Star Wars fan, but Star Wars fan. So we're all good here. But besides the point, Ben, let's talk about Bristol a little bit, and of course we'll get into some NASCAR news later. But overall, did you see all the races this weekend? I guess what did you think?
I caught the recap of the Cup race. It's kind of what I expected. Now with the new car, it's not been the
Yeah.
best on short tracks, as most of the industry knows. But it was a good race. Definitely interesting. First four exiting the playoffs. I feel like
Yeah.
two were predictable. I feel like every one of us. I need to go back and I've been meaning to go back and look at the episode where we discussed our brackets, but I know I feel like most of us had at least Stenhouse out, and I know a few of us had the 34 car out, but
Yeah.
Harvick and Logano falling out, that's pretty hard.
Shocking.
Yeah, pretty hard, disappointing. Definitely, it was a solid race. I don't think it was the greatest Bristol race we've ever seen, because I feel like Bristol's ever evolved from where it was, but solid weekend overall. Truck Series was the Truck Series. Xfinity was a banger. Xfinity was a
Ooh.
classic.
Yeah. The Xfinity series. So I watched that. I was at a football game Friday night. And so I was watching it on my phone, and I had an earbud in, and I was also listening to the football game. And I was it was one of those people you see the jokes about people at church watching a football game Sunday morning. I felt that vibe. So I was cheering on Dale, and then unfortunately a car caught on fire, but he had a race winning car, which was super exciting.
Yeah,
So
disappointing, because even I growing up, I wasn't a Junior fan, to be honest about it. But as I've gotten older, I've grown to respect him more. And I was
yeah,
sitting there, I was sitting down here in the office doing work, and I was watching. And I was like, "Come on, buddy, you got to pull this
yeah.
off. We need fun." And I was so heartbroken.
I know. So at least the Junior Motorsports car did win. Justin Allgaier captured another win this
Hmm.
season, which was awesome to see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
Ashton
continues.
disappointed. Yeah, disappointed in Joey for sure. I mean, not disappointed in Joey, but disappointed about. I should clarify that.
Words.
But yeah, just it was. I mean, Penske hasn't had the speed this year, and it's been quite shocking. But it's another championship for odd numbered year where Joey Logano doesn't make it in. So stats continue.
The
Um,
trend.
it's the trend. I mean, if there's any trend that can continue this year, at least it's that one. I mean, it's a negative thing, but I feel like we've been breaking trends since this Gen 7 car hit the track last year. Let's see, something else too. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, Kevin Harvick. Actually, Adam predicted that Kevin Harvick would be out after this round. So he's doing best in our bracket versus all of us, which is pretty rad. I mean,
Mhm.
unfortunately though, I don't want Kevin Harvick to not advance, which he's not advancing, but it would have been nice. Good to see
Ah,
Bryce in the chat, by the way. There we go.
I mean, this is the trend of drivers in their last seasons. They
Yeah, man.
This is one of those that I was thinking about this week, and this is a really random thing, but I was thinking about, okay, drivers that have retired in recent memory. And
Yeah,
I'm going back to Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, all those. I was like, okay, out of that era that I grew up with, who had good seasons to end with? I was like, okay, Gordon, he won at Martinsville, kind of on a fluky thing, but he won at Martinsville, so that was cool. Tony won at Sonoma in his last year, but he kind of ha-ye Denny Hamlin out of the way to
yeah,
do it, which is Tony Stewart definition. I was like, who had the last good season? And my mind paused, and I was like, it was Carl Edwards. And that was a surprise retirement, yes, but I was like, okay, Carl Edwards, I would argue him or Jeff Gordon, because both of them made the Final Four, or
Right.
like in the championship hunt. I was like, both of them had good final seasons. Arguably,
Yeah.
the rest of them have not. Like
Yeah.
Tony won, Jimmy was horrible, and now we have
So
Harvick who's
sad.
struggling. So like this
Yeah.
is what happens.
And arguably, like, I don't think Harvick's the problem. I think it's just the equipment this year at Stewart-Haas. I don't know what fell apart over there, but it was just, I
Yeah.
was like, man, you know?
Yeah, I
So,
feel like that team needs a hard overhaul, which is a
they
topic
do.
conversation for another day, but like they need to figure something out fast.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been disappointed in them this season. I mean, there's some days where like, I mean, Harvick is carrying that team. He has been carrying that team for a bit, but there's sometimes where I'm like, all right, Briscoe might run well, or Priest might run well, or you know, it all depends on the day, I guess. But I want to see them. Yeah. I'm tied number 4 in the NASCAR Playoff Challenge. Oh gosh, nice.
What a flex.
That's a good flex.
That's a good flex.
I wish. Speaking of, you know, playoff challenges and things like that, we do our points, the ATYL random race winning picks and points. Things got shuffled quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of shocked by this. I'm still in the lead somehow, some way, so that's happening.
Rigged.
But Adam moved a second. Granted, like, he was basically almost dead last the entire season, in front of Brandon. And now, since everything reset, we had our playoff points put in. He's killing it. And he got the race win this weekend. I think Rob actually got the race win.
Yeah,
this
I think
weekend.
Rob
My
got
bad.
I can't believe I have the most wins.
You do. No, you've
Dude.
been great.
Dude, like when I picked Reddick for Kansas, I didn't think it going into that race. I was like, it's not gonna happen. He's not gonna.
Because I wanted Reddick so bad for that pick. I'm like, if I don't get Bubba, I want Reddick. And I think I picked Larson, which, I mean, I think it worked out for me fine. But
Yeah.
man, no, that was a good pick. And then Dom, fall from grace.
Yeah.
26 points behind. It's just he's had the worst picks out of the rest of us, but his picks have not finished bad. Like, last week or this past race at Bristol, all of our picks finished in the top 10. So we all did really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, but for those of you that keep up, anything can happen. Again, if you want to know the system, it's on the screen for you here. If you are first, you get 25 points and so on and so forth. But yeah, what a time.
Dude, yeah. And the thing is, like, any of us besides Brandon can really win it now.
Yeah.
Like, we're all within striking distance. And like, we've got Texas is this week, but also you've got like Talladega and the Roval. Like,
yeah,
you got a lot of chaos coming up there.
Yeah, no, facts.
Scott's right. Yeah, that's always
right.
a good bet.
Yeah, because I think even the past 3 races, no, actually, 2 of the past 3 races, I've had Larson as my pick, and it's worked out really well for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
See, that's the thing. Like when we send our picks in, I'm always like, do I like? I've consistently try and like rotate out the drivers because like I don't want to pick the same like 5 guys.
Same.
So
don't be Dom Joseph, where you pick Denny Hamlin every week essentially.
Dang, you call him out, like just roast him.
I have to. He'll hear it. It's fine. But no, but otherwise, I mean, he's picked Toyota the entire season, and he's done fantastic. I mean, the regular season almost won it. So yeah, but no, all good stuff. Of course, we'll talk about some NASCAR news in a second, and of course, we will preview Texas. There's a lot to talk about there, I feel. But we will bring in a friend of ours. He joined us last year on the show. Of course, a lot has happened since then. You might know him as the driver of the AM Racing number 22 truck, the Outback truck. So very excited to welcome our friend Stephen Mallozzi. We'll bring him in.
Yo.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
Living the dream. A little tired. Law school's kicking my butt, but otherwise, doing pretty good. Can't complain.
Did you say law school?
Yes. Yeah. I missed a few days of law school to run Bristol. And that kind of killed me, set me back a little bit, but on the grind to catch back up, nonstop, working hard, all that good stuff.
We love it. Love it. So for those who don't know you, maybe didn't watch our last episode, just give us a brief little summary about yourself for those who are new to your journey and story.
Yeah, I am Stephen Mallozzi, an extremely mediocre driver in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I do occasional races whenever I can. Small-time driver, no real major backing, just kind of figuring it out race by race. I've been sponsored by a go-kart company that I used to drive for, the NASCAR gambling community, which is pretty sweet. I have been sponsored by ARS Construction at St. Louis, and GreatPoconoHomes.com at Pocono. And then somehow, out of my ass, we got sponsored by Outback Steakhouse at Bristol Motor Speedway, which I think is probably the coolest thing I've ever had done in my life. I was a server at Outback for a few years, and I started this Twitter campaign to get Outback on board and sponsor yours truly. And finally they did, and we got a race done at Bristol.
That's
Nice.
incredible. Like
I think that's a good summary. Yeah,
that's a great summary. I thought it was good. A+.
Yeah.
But like you're also a crew guy for Rayum, correct? Like
Yeah.
time.
I don't think I'm any longer a crew guy so much as I am an employee. Like I work for
Right.
RBR. I do a lot of their management level stuff. Like I help Josh out with a lot of stuff after the fire at Raymond Brothers Racing. I also do some of their social media sometimes, depending on the day of the week. We've got a social media guy, Lance, who's great, but I did that for a while. So I'm in and out. I was a full-time road traveling guy back in 2021. I did that stuff for RBR.
And like being on the road, how difficult was that? Just like full time.
I hated it.
Honestly, I love it.
and honestly, and like I got into an argument with some people on Twitter about this a while again. Thank you, Levi. I appreciate it. I got back into it with a few people on Twitter a year ago or so because people found out I was not paid by Rayu Brothers Racing for the time I was there.
I remember this.
Yes, and here's my thing about it. I knew nothing about NASCAR stock cars. Like not only did I know nothing about NASCAR stock cars, I knew nothing, period. I couldn't screw in a bolt if I tried. And Josh basically took me in. He paid for my travel, my flights, my food. He helped me out. He was great about the whole thing and taught me everything. Like would assign somebody to help me do a lot of stuff and taught me a lot of the skills I now have about racing. Taught me the ins and outs of the industry, got me a license, did this, did that. So like for me, working 8 to 5 at RBR was totally worth it, but it did mean that I was pretty exhausted all the time because from 6 to about close, I would be slinging pies at Domino's Pizza, delivering food. Yeah, I was pretty. Yeah.
Next sponsorship deal? Question mark.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Been there, done that, and if you remember, NASCAR and Domino's were actually a thing back in.
Oh yeah.
They left, and part of the reason was because they. I think they got sued because of the 30 minutes or less promotion.
Oh, yes.
So now I don't think they want delivery and speed associated with one another. I did at one point have a nice little sponsorship deal with my regional partners, the stores that I had worked for at Domino's. So I've done a good job at getting my employers to chip in. But they helped support me back in the day. The woman who her name is Rebecca. She does all of the Charlottesville, like the kind of the Virginia area Domino's stuff. She's lovely, and she supported my late model racing back in the day when she could, which was great.
Nice. So how did you you say you knew nothing about a NASCAR stock car and you knew nothing, but you race late models. How does that work?
So long story short, I was a go-kart racer. Dad got sick, cancer, left the sport. He comes in, guns a-blazing, 5 years later, supposed to be dead, all this crazy shit. Sorry, I forget. I don't know if I can curse on this.
You know what? Go for it.
Let it slide.
Sorry about that.
We'll let it slide. Just no F-bombs.
And he basically says, hey, he's like, if I treated my cancer the way you treated racing, I would have been dead 5 bad word years ago. And I'm like, that's kind of a crazy thing to say to your son, but also it got the point across. And then I moved to Charlotte like a month later, and I literally ended up just walking into RBR, and there was this guy who I had met through a mutual connection who sat me down and talked to Josh, and Josh basically taught me everything I know about race cars. That's pretty much where it started. I basically learned how to drive a race car on a simulator, which is pretty crazy to say out loud. And then I just one day did it in real life. I entered the Carolina Pro Late Model Series, and I did a bunch of races down there after buying my own stuff. And yeah, then I was like, I don't have any more money to spend in late models. If I'm going to be a NASCAR driver, just got to go straight to NASCAR and see what happens. And that's quite literally what I did. I went, I did Mid-Ohio, which Taylor interviewed me after. Yeah, finished 22nd. Some people thought I wasn't quite ready for it, but again, finished 22nd. We came home with a clean race truck, so, except for the practice incident, which we don't have to get into.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. And since then, I've gone on to have some pretty good runs. Bristol, I think, was by far my worst performance as a driver, which really sucks because we drew so much attention to myself, or I drew so much attention to myself for Bristol, and then completely crapped the bed, I feel like. And
What happened
obviously,
with Timmy Hill? Did he end up
gave me
running into you,
he
or
gave me the 1-2 Timmy Hill special going into one of the corners. I forget if it was 1 or 3. Bristol's so disorienting, you don't really know which corner you're in. You're just kind of going around and round and round. I actually talked to Timmy after the race, and I think a lot of the radio traffic of me saying I was going to wreck Timmy Hill got a lot of attention. First off, Timmy Hill is one of the guys I don't know that you could ever wreck. I think he's pretty impeccable when it comes to his driving record. But also, I think because Brock Beard tweeted about it, it got a lot of more attention than it would have otherwise have gotten. And it was just a heat of the moment comment. Like, here I am out here, very clearly slow. And like it really hurt my guts because Josh told me that he missed the mark after, and I felt bad because I'm like, Josh, you never missed the mark, man. I'm like, let's be honest, you're the reason I have a racing career. Like there is nothing you ever have to apologize to me for. It was a combination of things that let us down at Bristol, and I take the brunt of the responsibility. But we were very clearly off the pace. I mean, at this point, we're probably 2 or 3 laps down going into the edge of stage 1. Maybe it was stage 2. I don't remember. And Timmy is on the lead lap, and he's going into the corner, and I've been on the bottom all night long. Just bottom, letting people go on the outside, go around me. And all of a sudden, going in the corner, I get slammed from behind and go right up the racetrack. And what I was not pissed about was not getting hit. What I was pissed about was the fact that I almost took out a playoff contender with me. My goal was to go out there and learn as much as I can while staying out of the way, right? And that's what we were doing all week long. We were, or all weekend, all day long. I guess it was a day show. Kind of crazy to think about. And basically, I almost took out Nick, and I was like, that's the last thing I wanted to do. So I asked who it was, and Timmy Hill, I feel like in the NASCAR garage, is probably the guy who should understand what it's like to be an underfunded equipment more than anybody else. And like he understands, I feel like, hey, like this is not, it doesn't matter who's behind the wheel. The truck's probably not going to be up to speed. Now, I went after the race and talked to Timmy about it, and he told me like, hey, he's like, trust me, I totally get it. He's like, I understand it. And he's like, it was not my fault. He's like, I got slammed from behind and went right into it, and I felt bad about it. He's like, I promise you, I'm sorry. And he was super apologetic and very clearly like, I did not wreck Timmy Hill. Like that was not something that was ever in the cards.
right?
For me, if I wreck somebody, it comes out of my pocket, and I don't really have the money to fix a truck that I total because I have a grudge against somebody who is on the lead lap fighting to get back through, stay on the lead lap, and like just move me out of the way. I would have been really pissed if we had took out Sanchez though, and I let him know during the race I was displeased. Pulled up alongside him, kind of like gave him a little shrug and revved the engine at him and let him know like, hey, that was horse crap, but it wasn't his fault. It really wasn't. And I think I said on Twitter, like Timmy Hill is one of the guys I have the utmost respect for in NASCAR. He's kind of the model of somebody that drivers like me have to shoot for. You want to shoot for a Timmy Hill-esque career where, you end up racing full time. You get decent equipment in the truck series. That's not dog crap. He runs competitively each and every week with what he's got. And he gets chances in Cup and Xfinity when he can take them. And like, that's the goal for drivers who don't have backing like me. So I have the utmost respect for Timmy Hill. And I was just pissed off in the moment. Tough week, racing deal. Obviously wish we had been running better, and we just didn't have that opportunity.
But then obviously Bristol, I mean, every track is different. Every track has its unique, I don't want to say issues, but hardships. Is Bristol the toughest track that you've raced at? Or even I mean, Mid-Ohio feels like it's rough too.
I've never been afraid behind the wheel of anything I think I've ever driven since I was a little kid. I don't know that I've ever been scared. Bristol scares me. Like that is I did not like, I'll be the first to admit it. Like, and they always say, the scared race car drivers aren't race car drivers. Then I guess at Bristol, I was a tractor driver, not a race car driver, because I was terrified. I really like. I'll admit it. Pocono didn't really scare me. Turn one, the first time's intimidating. You go in 185, 190, whatever the heck it is, and you basically have to convince yourself that you can basically make it through without using the brake pedal, which is pretty much true. That's intimidating. Gateway was big in size, but in reality, it's not that scary of a racetrack. Martinsville, I really just kind of felt at home, short track racing, all that good stuff. That's what I did in late models when I was growing up. In Mid Ohio, I was just more excited than anything else. Like I was more eager to learn about how to drive a race car because shifting on a road course was something that I had to basically learn in the middle of a NASCAR race. So I don't know that I've ever really been scared before. I was terrified to make a mistake at Bristol. Like I knew that I was almost in the way of the playoff guys, and that is not something that I wanted to do at all. So it was a little scary. The truck was super duper on edge. And even Josh said to me after the race, like, hey, that thing was mad loose, like super duper loose based on the tire pressures and the tires that we took off that bad boy. And it was on edge all night, and it was kind of crazy that we were able to hang it as close to the bottom as we were. I had a big moment at one point with like 25 or 30 to go coming off of 4. And I thought we were done, but I held on to it just barely. And it was a tough race for us. And I think the combination of trying to make it in an underfunded car with by the way, I say underfunded and like I don't think that's a knock on RBR, right? Like I think I love RBR
Right.
and and by the way, I keep saying Josh and RBR because Josh is the one who brokered this deal with AM for me. That's why I keep saying that. I'm glad somebody saw the save. I didn't think that anybody noticed that.
We love it.
But yeah, it was a nut save. I totally thought I was freaking in the fence on the inside wall. But I don't think it's a knock on these teams that I'm racing for. I think at the end of the day, these teams need to exist so drivers like me can get experience. And I think for what it's worth, Josh puts in way more of an effort than what he gets out of it at this point. And I think he's working. And I think before the fire, RBR was on pace to be a real surprise team this year. And I know just how disappointed 22 truck AM Racing at Bristol, Outback Steakhouse, eat there, get a bloomin' onion. I know how disappointed Josh was when that happened. And I think disappointed is the wrong word. When your damn shop burns down, that's a little more than disappointment. So that was a big setback for the guys, and I think that RBR would be fighting for a top 30 position in points right now with the guys at AM and with Timmy Hill and with a lot of these guys who were right around that 30 to 28th range if it weren't for that shot fire. I think that really hurt the team this year and set us back a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think we did learn. I think it did get better as a race car driver. I've never been more comfortable and uncomfortable behind the wheel at the same time, if that makes any sense. I feel at home inside the race car now. I'm getting used to the fans and the starts and this and that. And like, I think I said on the radio, and somehow I got crapped on for this. I don't know why that's something I get crapped on for. I've done 8 live pit stops in my whole life. But I asked my crew chief about whether or not we're getting better at pit stops. And I think like right at this point, we're almost totally used to it. I think I got really good at getting in and getting out of the box. And like for us, that's a big step. Like we're working on getting the things done that I don't have to worry about anymore when I go to the racetrack. And it takes a huge weight off when all you have to focus on is actually racing, as opposed to starts, restarts, pit stops, this, that, and the other. Like shifting, like the fans. Now we're working on okay, let's actually get to racing. Yeah. And that's why I think I was so disappointed with how Bristol went, because at Pocono, we were racing some trucks. Like we were really having a good time. We were out there racing around the Youngs guys, around the 04, around Josh, around these trucks that we're supposed to be competing against. We were racing against them. And we finished 24th ahead of, I think, 5 trucks that were running at the end. Like that is a good result for us. Yeah, I was just really disappointed to go in for that and end up 8 laps down based on pure speed. We were competitive with one other truck. We were racing Greg Van Alst the whole time.
Oh
But
yes.
Okay.
It was just me and him. And like we were just a mound. I feel like Greg's season must be such a roller coaster for that guy.
That poor guy.
He's been through it.
You lose the. I think he ended up not being able to finish the Arctic season out, and now he ends up finding himself on a full-time truck ride. But he's been having a tough NASCAR National Series start to his career.
Yeah.
He's just had a tough year of losing his father too.
Yeah. And he deserves better than that, man. I hope he I hope he catches a break here and there. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you talked about learning a lot. So like what specifically did you take from this race as opposed to other races? Like what can you build upon for whenever you're in the truck, car, whatever you're in next?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that we learned is consistency, right? And figuring out how to get into a rhythm. And I think as the race went on, we got better at understanding that concept. The idea of getting into a rhythm when you're getting lapped every 15 or 25 laps is a difficult thing to do. But I think we actually found a half decent line on the bottom that we were getting into it, kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. And repetition, being methodical with it, is important. I also got much more comfortable in traffic, which is
That's
a
good.
really important thing. Obviously, not in the way we want to. I'd rather be lapping the pack. But Josh told me some stories that helped me keep my head high. And some of them are along the lines of, hey, like at the end of the day, anybody can hop in a KBM truck and be top 10 on the speed charts. Like it is what it is. Your objective needs to be to keep building these relationships with sponsors, learning, and take your chances when you get them. And I think that a lot of what he said, and it was actually not even Thursday, it was Tuesday on my way back from doing some appearances at the world's greatest steakhouse, that allowed me to kind of hear this perspective from him. Because honestly, Thursday and Friday, I did not want to talk about it. I was like, this is awful. This for me was my shining moment. It was my, here, look at me. We did this awesome thing. Like Outback Steakhouse is a major brand, arguably one of the biggest sponsors in the truck series, probably the second biggest behind Menards, or at least most recognizable, I would say. Like there's not many super recognizable sponsors because a lot of them are owned by the parents of the driver. And like for us to do this with the experience we've had in NASCAR so far was sweet. And everybody noticed Clint Boyer, Kenny Wallace, Barstool Sports, Sports Illustrated, like all these major I got some stuff on Fox. I got some stuff on CBS. I got some stuff on NBC 10 Philadelphia. Like all this stuff went, and like Philly is like the fourth biggest news market in the country.
Yep.
It's wild.
We freaking shot our shot and said, hey, everybody, look at me. And then that guy shit the bed, which was really just made me sad. But yeah, Josh said some stuff that really let me hold my head high. And I think talking to him on that ride home from making those Outback appearances really made me feel better about everything that's going on. It's tough, because there are a lot of fans who understand racing and understand like, hey, it is not an easy game to play. Like it is a lot of times pay to play, and you can either have money or you can't. And like if you can find the money to get into great rides, you could probably find your way to being a great race car driver. And that's what's so difficult because people were like, oh, 8 laps down, and why would Outback sponsor this kid? And that stuff kind of hits close to home. But I've worked for that company for years. I've been, I think, the best brand representative I can be. There's literally no better food in the world than that of Outback Steakhouse. And like, where else can you have a NASCAR driver serve you? I feel like that's a pretty cool thing to have.
That's very unique.
But and I think that's why I earned that sponsorship. Like I talked to them for months about getting it done and getting it going. And at the end of the day, race car driving isn't about how well you can drive a race car, right? That is what it is. So yeah, I hope to keep working on it. And I just wish people understood, like, especially behind the social media, behind all this stuff, there's a guy just sitting here.
Yeah.
And like it's tough, as if I don't pour my heart and soul. And I feel like I work probably harder than 99% of the NASCAR garage. I really do. And like, I'm not just saying that because the only reason I would say that is because I take pride in what I do. But like drivers like Timmy, Josh Rayum, myself, a lot of these guys who are doing a few starts when they can, or Timmy who owns his own race team, right? Timmy and Josh obviously own their own race teams. The learning curve of how exponentially hard we have to work to get what we have is insane. And that is what it is. Like, and I could call out people. I'm not going to. I'm not here to do that. I just there are very clearly people who get handed what they have, and that's why they race the way that they do. That's why they're okay with wrecking people and trashing trucks, because they know there's somebody there to sign the checks at the end of the day, right? But I feel like if we maybe had more people like Josh and Timmy in the sport, we'd see a lot more respectful racing as opposed to what we end up with in the truck series.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's been a topic of debate this whole season. Taylor, when you were at Mid-Ohio too, when we were all at Mid-Ohio, I grabbed Ryan Vargas and talked to him after the race, because he was livid about someone that I won't name, but he called him Dippin' Dots, and was just pissed off because he got punted on the last lap. You can find the article, I think, on TobyChristie.com, and I think it names who it is, so I'm not sure. But
if we're talking about the same driver, I'll go into it in detail on the Bubble the Yellow line if we want.
That's for Taylor to decide. But there's been a discrepancy of like driving styles in the truck series, and many people have talked about it.
Yeah. So, different driver.
Different driver. It's not.
And like, I think it's a great point. Is the truck series really even a feeder series anymore? Like, there's not even
that weekly here.
Yeah, there's not even really a ladder. Like, it's not a ladder. It's just people find their home in the truck series. And if you can have money, eventually you'll move up. It has nothing to do with how well you finish. God, you're really making me want to talk about some stuff. But it's just so true. It's so crazy to me that what is supposed to be a ladder system, trucks, Xfinity, Cup, or even then we'll even go a step further, ARCA trucks, Xfinity, Cup, has now become like each has its own identity. And if you whichever one you can have the money to race in is the one that you have money to race in. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go a step further and say the only one with any real value in being a phenomenal driver is Cup now, because there's actual advertising, like significant advertising value. And unless if you can bring press to a company like Stephen J did with Outback Steakhouse, and like, by the way, that's a huge story, right? Like that is a story that generated a lot of PR for Outback. But like when most companies sign on with truck series, there's not this great background story that gives it all this press and PR and attention that really shows an ROI, because you can go spend $150,000 on Google and get targeted ad clicks that are directed to your company. And it makes it really tough to find these advertisers that want to jump in and give the most talented drivers chances. Yeah.
This might be like a huge question, but like, and even too behind the scenes with the drivers I'm working with and things like that, like, I had the fan perspective of the sport. Then last year I started working behind the scenes. And I'm like, this is a totally different side that nobody sees. A lot of people don't understand, but it's like trying to find the solutions. Like, what in the truck series, even to Xfinity, but even ARCA, like, is there a solution to help these underfunded teams, or to help the identity crisis, or even just the sponsorship argument of where we can have those talented drivers that are deserving of rides get seats and it's not dependent on funding? Like, do you see a solution to all of this, or is it just kind of like we're just running the course?
No, I don't know what the solution would be. Here's the problem, and this is I actually had a great conversation about this today with somebody, and like, it all stems from this developing technology age that we have, combined with a decrease in popularity in NASCAR, means that it's tough to find that type of advertising value in the sport. And you see, like, you could say, oh, well, if we can't solve the bring more money in, let's solve the let's spend more money problem. There will always be somebody willing to step in, willing to write a check for these teams to get behind the wheel. There will always be a bidding war there will always be somebody who values it enough to do it and spend that money. And you could say, well, then why not just spend less money? Well, I mean, like relatively speaking, it's tens of thousands of dollars a race to get behind the wheel of an even like an RBR truck, right? And like, I mean, you know what that does. And like even Norm Benning probably spends $10,000 to get to the racetrack, just and to run seconds off the pace. And Norm does it because he loves it, right? It's a truck that he keeps in his freaking garage. Like he's not going to be competitive. But even Norm, it's like by the time you get licensed, by the time you get people to go with you, by the time you pay for gas to get to the racetrack, by the time you work on the truck by yourself, by the time you buy tires, it's probably a $10,000 ordeal. So unless if you institute some type of fully sanctioned like series that is, okay, here is 36 race cars, like literally SRX, okay? Here's 36 race cars. We will make the bottom series of NASCAR a talent-based series where we select 36 of the best stories that we think deserve to be in it, okay? And we will spend a little money, like not a lot of money. We will spend basically the same amount of money to put everybody in the same exact truck, and that's what we'll get.
The spec series.
Yep, a literal spec series.
Yeah. The
problem is who foots the bill for the spec series? And you ask yourself, like, even if we lower the cost to $800,000 a year, the same people who can write an $800,000 check are going to be the people who can write a $2.5 million check. Yeah. So the point here is even the trucks that are at the back of the field are unaffordable to most drivers.
Yeah.
And it creates the problem because the same people, this is why it's so difficult to be a small team owner. The people who can't afford that $800,000 check can probably just afford a $2.5 million check and go run with one of the big guys. It's such a niche field of people. So you really just need to find a way to, if you want a true solution, okay, make ARCA worth it. Make ARCA a full-blown spec series, okay? Literally use old race cars that are outdated, that people don't want anymore. Prep them all the same way. Make sure they are all exactly the same. And you know how you teach drivers to run with respect? You tell them that if they crash their race car, it's on them to fix, or NASCAR will fix it and they put someone else in the seat. And I guarantee you, every driver, all 36 of them, will grow up learning how to race with respect at that point.
You're not wrong.
It's a crazy idea. It's not even a realistic idea in my mind. I don't think it's something that would ever even be considered. But I think it's what should happen. Even running late models is hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a full season in the best stuff.
Oh, especially now.
Crazy.
JR Motorsports has a freaking late model. I mean, do you know how much money that late model probably costs to run?
More than that. I mean, what's crazy, like, this is something too that I think about a lot because where I cover the ARCA series, I see the Alex Clubs and the fast tracks of the world that are, again, they're out there because they love the sport. But again, like, it's like 50, 60 grand to put together like a few ARCA races, let alone a whole season.
Yeah.
So
no, and like Alex Club is a phenomenal example. I love that friggin' guy. Love him.
He's a good dude.
He's such a grind guy. When he crashed at Bristol, so sad. So sad. But like you see, he shows up in his club landscaping truck with a trailer on the back that I think he drives himself.
Yeah, right? He does.
It's what it takes to race. People do it for the love of the sport. I just wish ARCA found more value for its drivers. And like the problem is there are 6 cars that are run pretty much by Toyota, I feel like, right? Toyota, maybe there's a couple of other ones that are somewhat competitive, but it's basically Toyota, right? Toyota funds their ARCA programs, and those are the cars that win every race. And like, how are you going to compete with a car that's spending at more than a lot of truck teams are to go to the racetrack every week? You're not going to. You're just not going to be able to figure that out. And in a series where the purse, I think, is like 5 or 10 grand to win the freaking show, how are you going to justify spending $100 to go to the racetrack?
Yeah, no, it's
right.
That was the thing a few weeks ago. They did the dirt double at DeCoin and Springfield. they were like, Brett Cruz won at Springfield. He gets a chance to win $34,000 or whatever it was. And my jaw dropped. I was like, we're going to give that much money out to a guy right now? Like, that's way out of Arca's league, I feel like.
Yeah, I grew up racing with Brett Cruz. I actually, when I was a commentator in those years, he was a young kid, and he was going through the ranks of karting. And I remember as like a 10 or 11-year-old kid, he got into a fight at Pittsburgh after in like the national level event. He's a feisty dude. He's going to be something in NASCAR. But again, like he's got some serious backing. Like he is not he spent a lot of money on go-karts, and I imagine he's spending a lot of money on stock cars too. But he will be a personality. I think people will end up liking him, or like he's going to be one of those split guys. I think in 10 years where drivers or fans are going to love him, fans are going to hate him. Like that's going to be it. There's going to be the people who think, oh yeah, this kid's checkers or wreckers, baby, and then that's going to create a split field. But yeah, I don't know. I'm in my eyes for my racing career. I feel like I'm running out of tweets to send to get major sponsors on board. So I'm working on it. But
I mean, you've done like a lot. Like, okay, I don't know if I fever dream this or if it's legit. You sold your car at one point, right? To race?
Yes.
That's okay. For some reason,
you know what's crazy, Ben? People found a way to shit on me for that too. Like it is
haters will hate.
It's unbelievable. Like here I am. Okay, I'm living my dream. I could not be happier. I write articles for Toby about my racing journey. Those articles are not to complain. I think people think they're my form to moan about my racing journey. They're not. I'm living my lifelong dream right now, and I don't complain about having to work about it. Those are the stories to show you what it takes in NASCAR and hopefully make people aware that, hey, these small-time drivers that sometimes get pooped on, maybe you should realize they're the ones who are probably working the hardest to get where they are. I mean, like there are guys who are just literally getting checks, hand them in, and going behind the wheel, right? Like other of us, Alex Club owns a landscaping business. He has a full-time job. He just hops in a race car on the weekend. Yeah. And like people were telling him, like, oh, get off the track. No, the guy doesn't want to get off the track because he's running laps at Bristol. That's what he wants to do. I don't know. It's crazy to me, the things some people say. And like the Toby articles got me absolutely crapped up. People are like, oh, this kid's out of touch. Oh, this kid doesn't know what he's talking. Here's the deal. I got that car through a late model sponsorship deal. Okay. I am not, as a college kid, going to University of Virginia, which is a tens of thousands of dollar university, spending $40,000. I think it was actually more than that. $50,000 on a street car.
Yeah.
Now what's freaking happening? But that car was my pride and joy. I loved that thing. Okay. And I can't help the fact that I was really good at marketing when I was doing late model racing. And I happened to have a Dodge dealer that was on my late model alongside TobyChristie.com. And I sold the car. And like that was a painful thing to go from driving a 2021 car that I loved to a 2012 Nissan Altima with a flat left front tire, the radiator flying off, and it had 250,000 miles on it.
Beater.
Wow.
The piano teacher who lives in my basement drove that car, and I bought it from him for like $1,500.
Yeah.
And like people are like, I don't feel bad for this kid at all. Well, you know what then? Guess what? Have fun rooting for these personality-less people who are just getting check signed from here. I am showing some feisty flame, living the damn dream. And people are like, no, we don't really like you because you sold your car, you rich white kid. Literally, all of Tricon is rich white kids. What are we talking about? I'm done. I'm ready. Anyway.
It's funny, like the entire time you've talked, I've thought, I don't know, like I know Taylor doesn't. Do you listen to Dinner with Racers?
I've listened to a few after you told me about it. Yeah.
So it's a good podcast. It's Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman. They have this concept that they talk about where there's drivers and then there's racers. Like there's there's the rich white people or the rich people in the sport, and then there's the guys that are like you. And like I talked about it. I told the story to someone yesterday. There's the story of Don Garlitz that someone in Florida was like, hey, drive up to Michigan and there'll be a guy waiting for you with a job. And here's a truck because I like you. And I told the guy, you're doing the racer thing. You sold your car to do this. You're doing left and right things. You're a racer. There's a difference.
Yeah. And I sold that car because I asked myself, I'm going to law school on top of trying to manage this, whatever the hell it is in racing. I'm also in law school, and I know that in 20 years, I will be fine. Like I'm gonna recover. I've in every stage of my academic life, I figured it out and I make things happen. I will get a job at a law firm. I will be a lawyer somewhere. I will be okay. That's why I'm not afraid of the financial burden that I've taken on for racing, right? But the burden is totally mine. The other thing people crapped on about that St. Louis race are like, oh, you had your dad's company sponsor you, right? Like Aramark was on my truck. We did that as a thank you to Aramark. Aramark did not give us $1.
Yeah,
and
like
like
put the logos on.
we put the logos on there, one, because it looked great for us, right? We didn't have a blank race truck going. ARS was actually a primary in terms of what they gave us financially. Two, they have kept my dad employed and allowed him a lot of flexibility throughout his cancer treatments, which is awesome. They continue to enact him and keep him alive and keep him afloat and keep him doing things as if he's a normal person. And that's a huge thing for us. So to put them on our truck, because by the way, at one point they did fund my racing career because they signed my dad's paychecks. And when I was a go-kart racer, my dad paid for all that stuff. And that was awesome. They did not give us any money. The money that I put up for Gateway was almost entirely from my streetcar and the sale of my streetcar. And I think people think that because I had my dad's company on there that I am daddy's money as well, and that's just not true. And that one really sucked because to me that was something really cool we were doing for a great company, and I was honored to have them on my truck. And people took it as, well, look at this, it's another sponsored kid. And kind of like almost just in some people's eyes, it overshadowed the act of selling my car, which was super symbolic. And I had asked myself the question, in 20 years, do I want to be the guy who said, yep, I get to drive a bright orange sports car for a few more years? Or do I want to be the guy who did another NASCAR race and really said he gave it his all? And I made my choice, and I wanted to be the guy who said he gave it his all. Funnily enough, I didn't have that Nissan Altima for long. I actually got a phone call from a guy before Pocono who told me he read my story on either Fox Sports or TobyChristie.com or something about one of those websites about selling my car. Big motorsports fan. He owned a small car dealership out in Lancaster. He practically gave me a 2006 Dodge Charger. That is
whoa,
nice.
Yeah, and if you looked at my truck for Pocono, there's a sticker for a car dealership on there, and that's what he did. He's like, I loved your story. He's like, you're a hardworking guy. He's like, well, if you come out and check out the car, we'll come to an agreement, and we did. And like it cost me almost nothing to get the car. And that was, I at the end of the day, I basically paid title tax. That's it.
I mean, the big thing here, I mean, there's a few lessons here. So one, it's like people online suck. And a lot of it is just ignorance and not wanting to learn the full picture. It's being crappy to be crappy. Because people feed off of that. They love it. NASCAR Twitter loves it.
And I've learned it doesn't really bother me as much as it used to. I have found that the best way to respond is with humor.
Yeah.
Like somebody tweeted underneath my Outback post that I wasn't very good. And I said, oh my God, this is, I guess, me when if you know 45 says you're not very good at NASCAR racing. It was the Jeremy Clarkson where he says, oh no. Anyways,
yeah,
that's like, I think you just have to respond to it with humor, right? Like,
yeah.
These people, I will say, I did get like doxxed on Reddit, which was pretty scary.
Ooh.
Oh God.
Yeah, that was a little weird. This one guy on Reddit just absolutely has it out for me.
That's Reddit for you.
That is Reddit in a nutshell.
There's a few people on Reddit who have it out, but like some of the tweets were pretty funny. I laugh at them, but it was like, oh, I guess he really lived up to his sponsor's name by running Outback. But I'm funny, good one. Really had me going. And then I tweeted that too because I thought it was pretty funny. But I don't know. At the end of the day, you just gotta laugh at it. I'm living my literal dream. What am I gonna do? Keep complaining about it? No. Oh no, some guy on the internet who probably lives in his mom's basement said he doesn't like me.
I mean, so there's that, and then the other thing is the importance of relationships, and I think too you talk about like what's the ROI, or even to like just B2B opportunities for all these companies behind the scenes too. But it's you build these relationships with these folks, and you build a network, and you have people that support you, and that's huge, and that's what helped you get this Outback deal. That's what helped you get all these other deals that you've had, and have gotten you opportunities in the car, plus you working your ass off. Like it's so important, and people don't realize how far relationships and networking go in any industry, but especially in motorsports.
And no relationship to me has been more important than my relationship with Josh Rayham. Like that is the one that has changed the trajectory of everything that I've done so far. And basically because I'll be honest, he's like a father to me. He's ended up becoming like a dad. And although he's more like a brother, I guess, because he's only 10 years older than I am.
This metaphor got weird fast.
Yeah, right. He ended up, he's been in nothing but of the greatest help to me in my career, and he does everything he can to make sure that I'm living my dream, and that means a ton to me. But like that's a great example of how sometimes it's just running into the right person at the right time to end up. It's like Chase Briscoe, right? Chase Briscoe ended up doing Tony Stewart, and that's how he made it, right? Like he's an example of one of the ways you can make it in stock car racing. You end up meeting the right people and impressing the right people. I think Chase Briscoe at one point was sleeping in his car, right? And like you end up meeting the right people and making the right connections, and you can find yourself at the top. And that's kind of what we're hoping for, right? Just keep building, keep. I'll give you. Here's a great example of how relationships can spiral. I did this Outback deal. Found out that Outback was going to sponsor me, so I do a bunch of stuff to get promos, including schedule an appearance at Food City through one of my other sponsors, Luvabella Wines, who I met through one of my other sponsors, which was Stacking Denny's, which is the podcast run by Nick Giffen and Jordan McCabe, who I love dearly. I was on their podcast yesterday.
We love it.
So it spirals out into an appearance at a Food City. I'm at this Food City appearance giving out Bloomin' Onions to people. By the way, I have to give out like 1,000 Bloomin' Onions over the next week or so. I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
What?
They gave me a bunch of Bloomin' Onion cards with my name on it that I have to just hand to people. I'm like, hi, NASCAR driver Steven Mallozzi. Friggin' Bloomin' Onion, baby. They're like, I didn't have the favorite NASCAR driver now, but you give me a $9.99 Bloomin' Onion and I will root for you, baby.
That's how it works. Love it.
So at this Food City, giving out Bloomin' Onions, people signing autographs. I get a phone call from an Atlanta number that I don't recognize. Hang it up. I'm like, I don't know who the hell lives in Atlanta. It's freaking Brett Patterson, the president / CEO of Outback Steakhouse, calling me to wish me good luck. I'm like, holy moly! I just hung up on the president of the company that's sponsoring me, and he is a busy dude. And like, that's when it kind of set in that I've done something here. Like this is a real. And when he told me, one of the things he said to me was that he was proud to have me on board and have me doing this deal. That meant the world to me. That was a huge moment for me to hear that come out of this. Because like I have not only been working at the company for years as an employee, but now I'm a representative of the brand. And like to me, it's really important that I uphold their standards and that I make them proud. And to hear the guy pretty much at the top of the food chain tell me, "You're doing a good job, kid," that means a lot.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that we live for. It was a roller coaster of a day because, CEO of Outback calls you, tells you you're doing a good job, then you go finish 32nd, 8 laps down. It's a little bit of an up and down kind of day, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Those are my highs and lows, I feel like. I also like, if you really want to know a little more insight about small-time racing drivers, this will definitely be in the TobyChristie.com Bristol story. We drove back that night. I got out of the car out of the track probably close to midnight. 8 hours back to New Jersey. Okay? 8 hours. On a day where, by the way, Wednesday night, I left law school probably around 4 and got into Bristol around 2. So then I woke up at 7 to go to Food City at 8. I was there until 10:30, went to Outback from 11 to 1. I was in the fan zone at 2:30. Practice at 4, qualifying 4:30, race at 9, back on the road at midnight, back in Philadelphia at 9 a.m., law school the next day.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
And
like, people are like, yeah, but you finished 32nd. Boo. Dude, I'm working my ass off. I don't care if you're upset that I finished 32nd. Like, I'm too tired for this. I don't have time for it. Like, look at these. These are bags under my eyes right now. Again, though, I'm not upset. I can sleep when I'm retired. I will have plenty of time to lay down in bed all day. Right now, we are digging to make the dreams happen. And that's it. That's yeah. I'm good. I have nothing else to say. I think.
Well, before you go, just even to like, do you have anything up on the schedule next? Any
Yeah,
plans?
what's coming up?
What you're wanting to do?
I don't know. Do you guys know any multi-million-dollar companies that want to sponsor a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver with the best finish of 22nd?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll do some digging.
Oh, baby. Let B. Branscombe be on the job here. He's got yeah, I'm working on some stuff. And if I'm honest with you, I'm hoping to bring Outback back next year. I think we can probably get something going. But for now, I think there are only 3 truck races left this year anyway.
Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, I think I can do Xfinity road courses too. So I'm not saying that that's something I'm considering, but it could be. And road course racing is obviously my background. And now that I'm much more comfortable in a stock car, I'd love to go back to a road course and see what we can do. The reality of it is, though, this year probably done. I already got a lot of heat from law school for missing a few days. So I think I should probably just focus on finishing out the semester and getting it done, and then we'll come back better than ever next year.
Well, when you get back on the track, you have a spot on the show to talk about it. Well,
wow, I'm honored. Am I one of your favorites, Taylor? Be honest.
We do love you, Stephen. We really do.
Ben is one of those guys that I just feel like I should talk to more, and I just don't.
But I'm around.
Talk to us more.
Man, I really feel, well, I talk to you occasionally, Taylor, but I feel like Ben and I would be freaking boys. Like,
we would. Well, it's funny. Like the first thing you said when you're talking about like the working for him for free and people giving you guff on Twitter was I kind of was one of those people giving you guff at first. So
no, were you?
Yeah. Wait. Well, like it was a thing of like
asshole.
I made the point. He's walking away. Stephen Mallozzi, ladies and gentlemen.
What did you say about me?
Well, I wasn't giving you specifically guff. I was just like, as someone who can't like, I would love to move to, like, if I could right now, I would pack a bag and move to Charlotte.
Same.
And crash on someone's couch and work at Costco or somewhere, for goodness sake, to be able to even just go to weekend races in North Carolina, let alone work in the sport. So like, it's something like, it was one of those things like, you know, I would, if I knew I had stable income down there, I would do it. But it's just one that, like, you had a little bit of a different story. It's just my background is different from your background. That's different from Taylor's background. So it's just one of those, like, it wasn't like bad guff. It was just like, I can't afford to do this. So I would like to get paid for the work that I do.
It's jealousy.
It's jealousy. It really is jealousy.
Pure jealousy.
I was blessed. I'll tell you exactly what happened. Maybe this will change your opinion. During COVID, my parents made me not have a job. Okay. Mm-hmm. I actually moved out. I lived with my best friend for a while. I literally and that sucked because as an at-risk person, yo, PJ, by the way, hold on, wait. Don't lose this thread, Ben. This is my spotter. Peach was my mid-Ohio spotter. Love this guy. Love him to death. It's PJ Payne. Great guy. Such a G. I just did his birth announcement. He's having a second kid.
Oh my gosh, congrats.
Awesome. And I did a little video for him with Josh outside of one of the Outbacks we did an appearance at on Tuesday. I was like, hey, you know, I've got my 2 babies right here, the Outback truck and Outback Steakhouse. I'm like, I think we've got a friend in common who knows a little something about having a second kid. I sent him a nice little video about it, which is pretty sweet. Anyways, love it, PJ. So I didn't have a job. I wasn't allowed to have a job during COVID, but every dime I did have, I saved. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to my friend's house and started working at Domino's, quite literally 50 plus hours a week, just slinging pizzas constantly. And delivering during pizza was actually a great job because you didn't have to have contact with people, and people were very generous in their tipping towards the service because it was pretty much a necessity at that point. Mm-hmm. My dad one day was talking about his stock portfolio and told me that I should invest too. So I did. I put all of my money into random stocks like Dave & Buster's and Red Robin and my money all the companies that had been hammered by COVID. I learned the ins and outs of the stock market and I learned how to invest. I invested all my money and I basically, quadrupled it to 6 times it. For example, I bought Red Robin at like $3. I think I sold it at 38. It's crazy.
Oh, geez, wow.
And that's where I got the money to move from the starting money, right? The money that I used on racing. I did not touch any of the racing money for actual living expenses. All of my living expenses came from those domino shifts that I'd work from 6 to 2. It was not an easy thing, but I think people think when they hear my story that my mom and dad like paid my rent or did this or did that. At the end of the day, they were like, listen, we love you and we'll support you. And if you need to come back home, we'll let you come back home. They did indeed help me with my rent at my Charlottesville apartment, which was, I think it was on campus housing, so it wasn't like particularly expensive. They continued to pay that even though I moved out. But they're like, if you want to do this, this is on you. So when I moved down there, it was basically everything that I spent from food to gas money to my rent was from the 6 to 2 job that I had slinging pies. So it was a lot of 4 hours of sleep a night. And a lot of days, I'll be honest, a lot of days I would go into RBR late. Like I'd be there at 9 or 9:30 because I was so tired. If I got there, even if I got there at 9:30, it was a 9:30 to 2 kind of work shift, right? And that's
tough.
17 hours of work on 6 hours of sleep a day.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. It was a lot for me to handle. But I think a lot of the reason why people think, I would kill to move to Charlotte is because people don't realize just what I had to do to make that dream a reality. And, like I said, again, not me complaining. I would do it again. I would do it again and again and again to get to where I am today. And that's the fact of life, is I would. I just think people, the thing that pisses me off on social media is not the criticism. If people want to criticize me, I will take it to heart and I will hear it and I will listen to it. It's the people who are uninformed and continue to criticize anyway. That's what bothers me. You are informed, Ben.
Yes.
So your criticism of me has to go straight here, right to the heart, right to the number 34 Michael McDowell t-shirt.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of upset. Now I don't know that we can be good friends anymore, Ben. I'm going to go upstairs and cry about it. So
I'm sorry to break your heart. I really am.
Let me ask you a question. After talking to me now, I think twice, has your opinion of me changed at all?
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Okay. That's
like it definitely has. And I knew you were a guy that worked hard, but again, it's we didn't know. I wasn't fully aware of the whole story. Because that's where I'm at now is I'm working 45 hours a week, 10-hour shifts, and I'm doing that to save. That's my day job that I'm living off of, but trying to save money to be able to move at some point down there.
And you're like, hot damn. And you're like, imagine if somebody's tweeting at you, because you drove to the ARCA race yourself and drove back the night of, and you didn't get the story out to the next day. Imagine if somebody retweeted your story man, not only does the story suck, but it's out a day late. You'd be like, you have no idea what the hell I just did to cover ARCA, you dumb stinky head.
Yeah.
You'd be fired up about it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I feel like a lot of this has just been a therapy session for me. Have I been venting to you guys?
You owe us $1,000 a piece.
I've got about 600 of that for you guys. That's pretty much it. But then I got no food money, nothing at all. I'm completely dry. So let's not give that away. I will pay you back. Maybe I'll put above the yellow line on my next race car.
Oh,
maybe I'll put a picture of Ben Branscom's face on my next one.
I wouldn't recommend that.
You know what? If my logo gets canned for Ben's face on the car, do that.
There's better things we can put on a race car besides my face.
No, there is not.
No.
Are you a Flyers fan, Ben?
Yes.
Are you from Philly?
No, I'm from Kentucky.
So why are you a Flyers fan?
2010 playoffs. There was nothing else on. I put it on, and they were the underdog. And I was like, well, I'll root for an underdog.
Wow.
So
I'm a big Flyers fan. That's what we'll do. We'll catch a game sometime, you and I.
When
the Flyers go to Kentucky, we'll catch a game. Wait. No, I'm kidding. But if you're ever in Philly, you and I will catch a Flyers game. Anyways, I'm going to get rocking because I got law school reading to do. Folks, every time we talk, my heart is filled with love for you two. Love you both. We will talk, I promise you, soon. John, I will make that happen. Shreminator, I love you, bro. PJ, I love you. To all of you, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you support Above the Yellow Line. Make sure you become Stephen J. Mallozzi fans. If I ever win a NASCAR championship, everybody who comments on this video will get a free shirt. It's a long shot, but you should
Yes.
just comment because it's easy to do.
Mark that down.
And it's
Mark it
consistent.
down.
Ben and Taylor will hold me to it. On that note, goodbye. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks
man.
so much, Steven.
See you later.
See you, man. What a guy.
He's such a joy. I love him.
He is. Like, he's such a bubbly personality for like how hard he works. And that's like the best part about it.
Because I will tell you, I mean, like, I'm working like 30, 40 hours a week. I mean, it's not as much as he's working, not as much as you are working, but like, I have the persona for the camera. Then when the camera turns off, I'm still me, but I'm also like, I am freaking tired. I'm just drained. He just has so much. Like, I need to ask him, where does he get the energy from? Is it coffee? Is it a Red Bull? Like, what
Is it a legal
just
drug?
him.
Like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
because I was thinking, like, I had never met him face to face. And then when we were at Mid Ohio, we just happened to be walking through the truck garage, which is just an outside garage. And then, like, you're like, oh, that's Stephen Mallozzi. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And he walked up and hugged you, and then he shook my hand. And then he goes, we start talking, like having a conversation. And like 30 seconds in, he's like, I feel bad. I didn't hug you. I should hug you. And then he hugged me, and I was like, I literally just met you, but okay.
And what's crazy too is like there are so many like race car drivers in the lower series, and I say lower series not to like diminish or whatever, but it's true. You know, you have Xfinity Cup, I mean Xfinity and Truck that have such great personalities. These drivers do, but they're not seen, or they're just doing a few events each year. Steven's one of those drivers that's just a treasure of a personality. He's really passionate. He's hilarious. He's a heartfelt guy, but he'll also, like, if he's pissed, he'll tell you, like he told us here, like he gets mad.
Yeah, he did for sure. So, but no, great guy. Definitely excited to see what he can get in 2024 now.
For sure. And we have to hold him to it. Your face on a car. I'm holding him to that at least.
This is the internet, and nothing gets forgotten. If that's one thing I've learned about the internet.
I'm gonna have to write this down afterwards. But we will like totally just breeze through some NASCAR news because I know that there's a lot to talk about. And I'm sure I love hearing your opinions, Ben. I feel like you have really just like sound and really unique and just fun opinions on certain things.
I appreciate that.
And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm so curious to hear. There's a few things in particular that I'm like, I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
So we're going to dive into it. A lot of this is silly season news related. And y'all in the chat, if you have a topic you want to talk about, questions, or even comments, let us know. And of course, we will chat along with you for the next like 30 minutes. But here we go. So let's talk about just driver silly season, not schedule silly season, drivers. So the big piece of news I want to talk about here, Matt DiBenedetto. This is one I was actually curious.
That's the biggest piece of news you're starting with?
This is the one I'm going to start with because this is the one I'm most curious your thoughts about here. So they issued a statement, Rackley War, just saying, you know, they've reached a decision to make a driver change for the rest of this season, which means Matt DiBenedetto is out for the rest of the season. He basically doesn't make the next round of the playoffs. He's gone. So this is their statement. You can pause to read it. I'm going to switch over to Matt DiBenedetto's statement, but essentially it was, you know, he's very disappointed. Basically, I think he's done the rest of the season. I don't think he's going to be racing anywhere else. And then it's the question of, well, he already announced he was leaving Rackley at the end of this year. So what are his plans next year? So thought process wise, I have some thoughts on this, but Ben, statement wise, this whole deal, like what are you thinking with all this in Matt DiBenedetto?
I mean, there's a lot of bad blood, I feel like, right here. I'm reading over the Rackley one because I've never I had it pulled up on the second monitor, so you're fine.
Oh, amazing.
There's no mention of Matt DiBenedetto in this at all.
Yeah.
So I feel like this gives off, and I'm not saying that like it's the same thing. This gives off Alex Bowman, Tommy Baldwin Twitter vibes when Alex Bowman found out they got fired via Twitter from Tommy Baldwin Racing a couple years ago. There's definitely some bad blood. I don't know what. I'm not gonna like. It's hard to speculate because like I can see Rackley's side of, okay, we know he's not coming back, so why keep him in the truck when you could get a young gun who possibly could fill in? I've heard rumor of like who could be in that truck. Is someone possibly that ran well at Bristol in a Thursday night race that I've heard rumor of. But it's untelling. But there's definitely some bad blood here, and I don't know who kicked off the side. We can make guesses and estimations, but definitely. So yeah, it's definitely an awkward situation. But
I think there's a good point here too, is maybe these last 3 races are a trial period for their next driver.
Yeah.
Maybe they already have somebody picked out for who's going to replace Matt. But it was interesting the way the statements ran out, because I mean, when we talked to Matt at, Mid-Ohio, and every time I've had an interaction with Matt or Rackley, everything seems pretty good. Like their relationship seemed really good. There was no indication, obviously they're not going to show it, but there was no odd tells of things just going south. And it's kind of disappointing for how this seems like it's ending. Again, we're not here to speculate because we don't know what actually happened behind the scenes, but the statements are telling of something that's way off. So that kind of sucked, but I don't know. Well, I don't know where Matt's going to end up. I certainly don't think it's going to be a cup ride. And everyone's like, he's going back to cup racing. I'm like, I don't think that's the case, unfortunately.
No.
I don't know.
And that's such a, sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
No, go for it.
That team is kind of an oddball team, Rackley, that is. Not like in a bad way, but like they're not necessarily like a Chevy pipeline team. They run a late model development program that's pretty big in the Tennessee, Carolina region. They've got some young talent in that pipeline as well. So it's just kind of like they're just their own independent team. So it's very weird. And it's definitely a sudden release, and it's a very awkward situation, I feel like, for all parties involved, because even Matt didn't mention Rackley at all. He didn't mention the team. He just said thanks to the fans of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series or whatever. So definitely a lot of weird vibes coming from that group right now. So,
and I am one of those people too that loves to just kind of decipher PR statements or like just statement releases. It's my bread and butter. Like half the people I follow on Twitter, I feel like are just like PR gurus. And I'm like, I'm ready to dive into this. And that was just odd. So I hate it for all parties involved. I don't know what's next for the team or Matt. Surely silly season or the off season, we'll hear some more. It depends. But
for sure.
Regardless, we'll move on from that. There was a confusing deal that happened this past week, or I guess last week, going into Bristol. Live Fast sold their charter and they sold it to Spire. And
did you hear? Sorry, do you listen to the teardown with Gluck and Bianchi at all?
Yes.
I love the story where they were like, yeah, we were at a Waffle House trying to break this like news or whatever. It's 6 a.m. So anyway, continue.
It's amazing. First off, we love them, adore them. Second, going back on the story, but so Live Fast sold their charter to Spire. Zane Smith signs an agreement, a multi-year agreement with Trackhouse, but Zane Smith is going to be driving in Spire equipment next season as a Trackhouse driver, with the eventual goal of Trackhouse getting a third charter for Zane Smith to race in 2025. And then with that said, and this isn't already confusing enough, Trackhouse and Spire formed an alliance or like a partnership in that way.
Which is confusing because I thought Spire was using Hendrick gear and Trackhouse I thought was an RCR team.
So and that's where I'm confused, and I don't know if there's been any clarification on it of like, okay, so where is it now? Just Trackhouse is kind of on its own with Spire? Have we just kind of regrouped, or is like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone's clarified that. I've done the research. I have no clue.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Number one is, oh my God, the price of charters is insane.
Like, yeah, reported $40 million.
And that's not the charter and the team's assets and the team name.
Right.
That's a piece of paper that says you are locked into a Cup Series race.
Yeah.
For a piece of paper, 40
million.
That's not real money, folks. That's not real money. That's monopoly money. Like that when I heard the deal, I wasn't as surprised until we got to the number. I was like, $40 million is an astronomical number. She's putting her hat on. It's getting rough.
I have to put the hat on.
No, you're good. It's her thinking hat. Like that was insane to me already, that the price was $40 million. As for like 40 million, it's just getting your foot in the door is mind blowing. Yeah. And this is, I think Tommy Joe Martin said it on Twitter. I was
going to mention his comment. Yeah.
He was like, this means that you're like the small time guy is not going to ever be a Cup Series star, or you're ever going to run the Cup Series again. And that's true. We see it with Carl Long and MBM talking about Mallozzi, talking about like small time guys. Carl Long's a perfect example of that. Now he's no longer in a Cup Series car. He runs some Xfinity stuff every now and then. But this deal is interesting because now we've shown, okay, this charter costs $40 million. And Trackhouse wants to buy one in a year to get a third car. My guy, that price is going to do nothing but crank up and up and up. But we have learned another thing out of this, which is Justin Marks is a baller and shot caller.
Heck yeah.
The fact that he pulled Zane Smith from Ford, big L for Ford Racing, like
Major.
huge. That's such a fat. That's a fat L if I've ever seen one, because that's your top prospect.
Yeah.
Won a title, going for a second title. You lose him to Trackhouse.
I mean, and here's the thing too, and there's a few things with what you just said, but one, Zane Smith did say in his press conference, he's like, one of my buddies asked like, hey, where do you want to race in the future? And he said Trackhouse. Like, so that's always been his goal. And he had a development deal going with Chip Ganassi at the same time that Trackhouse was acquiring Chip Ganassi's assets. So there was always a sort of goal to switch, but it's wild that you would lose that type of prospect. And even before this news came out, one of my buddies, even like the week before the news was announced, he's like, hey, I just saw Ty Norris and Zane Smith talking. Like, they just exited the hauler. I don't know what this means. And I'm like, oh, they're probably just chatting, but it could mean something. And then the news comes out. I'm like, oh crap, it meant something.
Yeah.
But my thought process was, I thought Zane might be another driver at RWR. I was like, maybe they're trying to build something there with Ford, or like, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a like. If I was a driver, excuse me as I burp. If I was a driver like coming in the sport, I would want to be a Trackhouse, because
it's enticing.
It's enticing, and it's the team that lets you be you.
Mm-hmm.
They have not made Ross Chastain change a bit of being a watermelon farmer. The only reason Ross Chastain arguably has changed his driving style is because Rick Hendrick said something.
Right.
Who's like the big daddy of the sport. Like, they're letting Daniel Suarez be Daniel Suarez and run Daniel's Amigos. They're letting Shane Van Gisbergen hop in a car and do the funny and like beat everyone.
And like, my thing with that too is like, I know that there are some traditional fans that are against what Trackhouse is doing, because I've heard it, I've seen it online, I hear about it in person. But what they're doing is so enticing, and it will create longevity in the sport. Now, there is the concern though, and this was mentioned to Justin Marks during the press conference, and he was asked about it. Like, if your goal is to get Zane Smith in a third charter, what does that mean for SVG? Like, what are his future plans? What are your plans for him in the future? And he's like, the developmental deal next year with SVG will kind of tell us where we need to go. Basically, it's like, we're just going to see what happens, but we're focused on our future with Zane. The other thing is, getting a third charter isn't a guarantee. This is a risk that they're taking, and the risk that Zane Smith is taking. I mean, he'll be sound in a Spire car next season, and he'll have that seat depending on what happens. But again, you're not guaranteed to get that. Like Ben, you said, the price is really high, 1 and 2. I know there's a lot of other teams that also are looking for a third or fourth charter. I know RFK said at some point they want to expand. The issue is the price. I'm sure 2311 would love to expand at some point too. So it's an issue. But then again, we also have other rumors that SHR might sell 2 of their charters. Again, that's a rumor, but that's a huge rumor that I get questions about all the time. And I'm like, I have no freaking clue what's going to happen. Nobody knows. It's wild. It's
wild. And like, this is the other thing too, is like, everyone on Twitter acted like this was the greatest signing since sliced bread. I'm like, okay, Zane Smith, like,
yeah,
he's made like 5 cup starts, maybe filling in for Chris Buescher, who had COVID, or I
to
think
be fair,
COVID.
Yeah, like it was a sick. I don't know if it was COVID or not, but like the thing is, like those cup starts though. That
Anti-vaxxer Taylor here?
No, I don't know. Did they announce it was COVID?
I think it was. I think that's what it was, because it was back at Gateway like 2 years ago or whatever.
Oh, okay, then yeah, that was probably COVID. But no, I got my vaxes. We're good.
Vaccines, kids. But no, like it's such an interesting dynamic that's left a lot of open doors. And yes, it's a solid year plan, but like, did we think about years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down the line? Because it's gonna get foggy.
And I think the biggest idea though was, if you want a driver like Zane Smith who has raw talent, and all his cup starts that he had prior to this announcement were solid. I mean, finishing like, what was it? Inside the top 10 at the 600, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're taking a risk on a talent, especially one who hasn't done a full-time Xfinity ride. Not saying that, I mean, again, we're talking about that tiered system of like moving series to series like we did with Steven just like a little bit ago. But you're taking a risk, and it's like, will it pay off? I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty. I'm here for what Trackhouse is doing. The funny thing is too, like, as much as I love Trackhouse, they puzzle me. They let their drivers be their drivers, but there also is like, there's no identity. Like for Hendrick, in all respect to Hendrick Motorsports, but their drivers, I'm like, I could tell you if I was new to the sport, which one they're Hendrick Motorsports drivers. If you told me Hendrick Motorsports is just button up, professional, kind of bland, I could pick out the drivers right in a row. Right. And that's nothing against Hendrick Motorsports drivers. It's their personality, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're like, okay, pick out Trackhouse, I'm like, I don't really know if I could, because everyone's a little different, you know?
And like the other kind of domino to fall right now is what happens with Daniel Suarez. He's in a contract year this coming year.
Right.
And let's be honest here, you're not getting rid of Ross Chastain, arguably the most polarizing has the opportunity to be one of the biggest faces in the sport now.
Yeah.
You've signed SVG, I believe, to a multi-year deal, and whatever that may be, it could be Xfinity, Trucks, Cup, whatever. There's a chance he gets a Cup car. And then who's the other odd man out? Daniel Suarez. And let's be honest, he's not performed. He's won one race.
The crazy thing is, like, they formed this team around him and that idea.
That's the thing is, like, you have, like, they formed it around him, and he wasn't the first guy that Justin Marks picked. Justin Marks has been open about that.
Yeah.
He said he flew to Columbia, Missouri to talk to Carl Edwards, for goodness sake, about getting in the Trackhouse car. But, that's the team that's won around him. Pitbull's a part of that team, and he's big in talking about having a Hispanic driver behind the wheel. But also, this is a performance-based sport, and, if you don't perform, you're out. So it'll be interesting to see if Suarez can pick it up or what happens with him and that team. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, gosh. Silly season brings out the best and worst of people, fans as well, in terms of like conspiracies and what's going on. But with this whole TV deal thing and the 2024 schedule still in question, which we'll talk about in just a second, like, there is so much unknowns this year. Like, I don't remember a year that I've been a part of the sport where there were this many unknowns and this many just wild things happening.
Yeah. And that, like, I just can't get over the $40 million.
That's
because if now you're SHR and you're rumored to get rid of 2 charters, that's $80 million.
Yeah.
Between whoever buys those charters, if anyone buys those charters. You have Junior Motorsports who's Junior's talking about getting in, but he says the price of a charter is too high. Well, if it was high when they paid a couple $1 million for it, like, now it's astronomically, it's out of this galaxy if it's $40 million, and it's only going to go up because the cost of racing is going up. So it's just,
it's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of Junior Motorsports too, in case you missed this, Jones and Mayer re-signed their contracts for 2024.
Allgaier re-signed as well.
And Allgaier was the big announcement. He announced it after his win at Bristol.
Yeah, dropping that casually, and the social team wasn't ready, so they had to make a graphic.
Yeah, I loved it though. I was like, okay, I mean, I guess this is going to be announced now. That's fine.
Yeah, it's funny.
Good for the social team.
Yeah, it was good for them to get out. But like, they're not changing basically at all. So.
No, I mean, well, then the question is who takes the 8 car, and I've heard rumors who's taking the 8 car, but I'm like, I have no freaking clue.
Well, I would argue the next biggest rumor is who's taking the Spire 77.
Yes,
because I've heard rumor that it's a guy that did really well at Bristol this past weekend, filling in for someone. So, yeah, that's the biggest rumor I've heard recently. So then, because this other fellow or the same fellow had been rumored for the Junior 8 car, but now it's, who do we have? So.
I think, I mean, just saying names here, Carson Hosfar, probably the Spire 77 is what I've heard, rumor-wise. Just even not like
you have good sources, ma'am.
But just like the fan speculation is all like Carson Hosfar has to be going to Cup, and I'm like, okay, Spire 77 is where he's got to go, right?
Yeah.
But then the 8 car, who takes that? And my thought process is like, I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be. I don't feel like it's going to be a Chevy driver that takes that seat. I feel like they're going to pull in random talent.
I think it's going to be Carson Quaffle from Car Store and some limited truck and ARCA stuff. Because Josh Berry had the similar thing of he had a few ARCA starts and a few truck starts, but it was dominant at Car Store. I think Quaffle's either in the hunt for the title or leading the points in Car Store standings in the late models. So I could easily see him taking over the 8 car, similar route to Josh Berry.
And he had a debut this weekend? And what was it?
He debuted in trucks this weekend.
Yeah, he did. Okay.
Bristol, and had like a top 10. It was a top 10 finish because he ran ARCA, finished second in ARCA.
Yeah,
ran Car Store, finished like 7th, and then I think finished 8th at Bristol. Don't hold me to that. But I digress. Like, I think it's going to be Carson Quaffle in that car. So
now here's what I've actually heard. So I'm glad somebody brought this up. Sammy Smith. This is one of the rumors that I have heard. I think this one makes sense. I agree. Given the prior connections to his sponsors with Junior Motorsports when they were with Annette. That's what made sense to me. And then I saw some people talking about this on Twitter, and I was like, honestly, wouldn't it be a bad move?
I don't. Here's the thing about
What
Sammy
would
Smith
be-
is like he's been in that pipeline for years.
That's the thing.
He's been a Toyota kid. Like I watched him win ARCA races. Like he's a Toyota kid through and through, I would argue. But we've seen it happen before. And the thing is, right now, let's see. You've got who like in the Xfinity Series Toyota, you got John Hunter Nemethruck, who's going to Cup. So that leaves an open ride. You've got and so the 19's open. Technically, it's not a full-time car, and then or not a full-time driver in that car. And then you have the 18.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 3 Joe Gibbs cars in Xfinity. Am I missing one? I don't think I'm missing one.
No, that's it.
So like you got a 20 seat to fill, and the 19 is probably going to be a star car. Sammy, like unless he is dying to go Cup racing, which personally I don't think he's ready.
No,
but unless he's like dying to go Cup racing, I could see him staying. Like that one's a bit of a stretch, but I see the connection that people are trying to make with it. I just don't see it happening. Got Sam Hunt cars too. Well, yeah, that's true. But like I don't like he brings enough funding to buy a JRM car. Like I watched that ARCA team get funded by TCM and Flying Pilot J. So I just don't see that as much personally. Besides the TMC connection or whatever it's called. Yeah, just an interesting dynamic, but also put Ryan Truex in the 20 car for God's sake.
Please, I was just about to say Ryan Truex needs a full-time ride. He needs it. He's so talented. And my whole thing too is like silly season. We're also focused on the Cup series. What's happening in Cup? Because it's wild. Don't get me wrong. I think we've said wild like 30 million times or 40 million times. Call back in this episode alone. But literally, like pay attention to the Xfinity series and the Truck series. That's where names are made here. That's where the talent is, and that's where I think we'll see some of the craziest silly season moves. So, I don't know. Keep an eye out for it.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Speaking of, like, I guess, like, silly season, I almost consider the schedule silly season at this point because this is getting ridiculous.
Did you see Bob's tweet today?
A few more weeks. Well, the issue is with Milwaukee.
No,
right?
it's Montreal.
Montreal is what?
We're going to Canada, boys. Pack your bags.
And I was like, oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First off, that's awesome. As a fan of Montreal, but some of the best racing. Oh, we talked about Matt Benedetto, Aaron. Sorry, I just saw
we
that.
did.
Montreal's a banger track. Like those old nationwide races and Busch Series race, early Busch or late Busch Series, early nationwide, bangers, certified banger races. So if that comes back, I'm super excited. If that's a Cup race, I'm even more excited. But that's the big holdup apparently right now, according to Bob Bacchus.
And here's why I think it might be more than just the Cup series, because it was also announced that it appears that not Racing America, Jesus, hello, Racing America, Road America, hello.
Not coming back.
It's not coming back for NASCAR, period.
Disappointing. That's a 12-year run that they had in the sport.
Awful. Yeah. That's
such and I feel like maybe I don't know if we've talked about it, but I've talked about it with several other people. Like that area like is hardcore, but not even like necessarily race fans. It's just like it's one of those cultures of like, oh, there's a race Road America, let's go to Road America and party. And that's the thing. Like it's been a killer crowd, and so it's disappointing to see it leave, especially even just the nationwide Xfinity Series race. So
it's so disappointing for me. And then Hab says it appears
that's what I've heard. The rumor is that they can't get Montreal to work out. Is that Texas would get 2 races? That's what I've heard.
I'm gonna lean into camera here. We need Montreal to work. I can't do 2 Texas Motor Speedway.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
Like I can't do it. I'm sorry. Like, and my whole thing too is there's also just. I know IndyCar is questioning if they're going to return to Texas or not. I think a lot of it is just a scheduling thing because they put on banger races at Texas Motor Speedway. They are so good.
Classics.
Amazing. So my whole thing is like, okay, Montreal has to work. If it doesn't, I will cry because I can't do Texas Motor Speedway twice in 1 year. I'm sorry. Like no shade to anybody, anything, but the track just does not put on a good product, period. It doesn't.
As we go there this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to preview that race, by the way. So like, again, no shade.
Texas, but this schedule is like, we're now to the point where it's getting really late like, because it
Yeah.
was one of those things like I discussed with several groups of friends, you all, the ATYL crew included, of like, let's do Spring Bristol. Let's go to Spring
Yeah.
Bristol and meet up and like have a bunch of people and have a party and have a good time
We
because
have to do
Bristol's
it.
a great track. But now it's like, okay, I want to make plans for that, but it's September 21st. I have no clue. It's going to be a rumor is it's a spring race,
Right.
probably March or April. Okay, I need to know because I need like by the time January 1st hits, PTO needs to be put in. It's going to be a whole thing and scheduling, and I'd like get
Yeah.
but it's like one of those things. So
And even too, for me, it's like it's budgeting out. Like, what races am I going to go to? I'm going to one as a fan for sure, one or two, and then the rest I want to report. So it's like, for me, it's like, all right, I got to figure out my schedule. Then funding, got to build that funding, kind of like the race car drivers do. You know, we got to build that up. But it's like, are we going to know? Speaking of too, also just side note in here, the Clash is back at the Coliseum next year, and
they're bringing the Mexico Series. Yay!
And I'm so excited about that. I think that's fantastic. I love it. I'm here for it.
I love that. I that's something like they need to bring the Mexico Series and like as many series as they can, like do an exhibition with the Arca West if they want to, but like that's a banger race and I'm super excited for that.
Oh, I'm so excited. So like there's exciting things in the works, but with uncertainties, and again, I mention this almost every live stream I do. I mention this all the time, but like historically, it's usually been like the first week of September where they've released the schedule, like around that time, right?
It's October.
It's about October, you guys. We have literally okay, so we have one more week, and then after next week, we're in October.
Yeah.
Like that's disgusting and crazy, but also spooky season for the win. We've discussed this.
Dubs all day.
Yeah, but it's nuts, and I don't know. It'll be an interesting schedule. I mean, Ben Kennedy said this will be Ben Kennedy or Steve Phelps. I think it was Steve Phelps said this is going to be the most aggressive schedule that NASCAR has ever had. And right now, with how long this is taking, I believe it.
I mean, yeah, this is the thing because now, like, especially like let's say in theory Montreal works. They want that to be a spring race. That's like a March April race too. That changes everything for these teams because now it's like okay, like let's say the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series go to Montreal. Okay. That means everyone that didn't have a passport's got a passport and everything changes of like scheduling of where do you put that? Because if you put it on the West Coast swing or right after the West Coast swing, it's going to get messy. So there's a lot of logistics that do go into this. So it's going to be an interesting schedule for sure. I just want it to come out already.
I know. I mean, I will say to close it out too, some people are actually taking it upon themselves to like look up tickets at the tracks to see if there are already dates in for next year. And somebody found like, I want to see if I can find it on Twitter and I'll repost it. I might have already done it. But somebody found like North Wilkesboro already had their dates up for next year.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that. I think Bristol's normally like they're good. They're always one to like announce their race dates like that, like at the fall Bristol race or at the night race weekend. They're really common to do that. I don't know if they have done that because they're normally just like announcing it on the PA being like, get your tickets for next year on these weekends. And we're all like, wait a minute, NASCAR hasn't said anything. Like, let's see.
Oh, why can't I find it? But it was like they had the dates. It said like 2024 on it, stuff like that. I'll find it. I'll try to find it again.
Bristol still says dates coming soon for the Food City 500 in the spring. So they and again normally they're good about like letting it slip. So like that's a big deal.
But North Wilkesboro, someone posted about it, like that they were on like a ticket something, and they saw the dates. Again, how true that is, I don't know. But like people are taking it upon themselves to be like, I'm going to look at Ticketmaster. I'm going to look here and here and here and see if they have the dates. So
Habs, I feel like we're going to get two Bristol concrete dates, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because like if you get rid of the night race but keep the spring concrete race on day, you probably have just committed a cardinal sin and need to be like destroyed.
You have. Facts.
So
facts.
But schedule is going to be fun. I'm excited to see it if it's going to be as aggressive as they claim. I'm hoping this goes back to the Road America thing. I'm hoping that Xfinity now joins trucks at Milwaukee. But the rumor I've also heard is that they're not coming back at all, which would be sad.
Oh, incredible.
But like I want to see Xfinity back in Milwaukee. Like I'd have to be a triple header weekend with trucks, Xfinity, and ARCA.
That'd be awesome.
Because it'd be good. So it's a good track and it puts on good racing. So that's the other thing that I've heard rumor wise. Bristol's confirmed that they're getting ready to race. Yeah, that was announced, and that'll be exciting to see two concrete races. ATYL meetup at Bristol Concrete Spring. Be there, Taylor. Be there.
Oh, I would love to go.
Do it.
I want to, like, because I have the rain delay tickets from the 600, but my thing is like, I don't know if I want to go to the 600 again. It's been so much fun, but I've never been to Bristol. I want to experience something.
You gotta
go
to Bristol.
You know?
It's such a culture shock. Also, Iran's got it right. Like we at least know when the Coke 600 is gonna be. So you're not wrong.
That's true. We love that. Hopefully this year it doesn't rain.
Yeah,
So,
for real. Well, last year or the 2 years ago it didn't, but I digress.
yeah.
Come to Bristol.
Mm,
Come to Bristol. Come to
yeah.
Bristol. Everyone in chat, come to Bristol. It's gonna be lit.
So, like, not like confirming it, but there is a strong probability that the ATYL crew will all try to meet up at Bristol. There
I
is a
just,
strong likelihood.
I love that track. It's so worth it to go. Truly, like it's a hike, especially even for me, but like it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So sorry, I've rambled on enough about this.
You're
Stupid
good.
thing.
No, there's so much to digest this past week alone, and I'm like, oh my god, we have so much to get to. But we'll breeze through a preview for Texas. With that, I mean, comes a preview for the round of 12. I mean, we're entering that right now. We have our
New
drivers.
round, new people, dead people are gone, live people continue on.
Amazing.
I didn't mean to touch live, but
So yeah, I mean, this your track facts. You all kind of know it though. You've seen it. You know what's up. We got your driver stats for this race. Reddick won this one last year. Kyle Busch has the most wins of the active drivers at this track. And then you have your driver averages, best overall average finishes at the track too, in case you're wanting to like kind of figure out your fantasy lineups for this weekend. I think most importantly though, is if we look at our point standings, and let me hopefully I have the right slide here. I think it's slide 2. There we go. We showed this earlier in the stream, but we'll kind of preview this before we head out. But here are the new point standings. Everything resets. Those who are still in the playoffs for that championship reset to 3,000. And then we add on our playoff points. So yet again, Bubba Wallace is back in the red. Brian Blaney's in the red now. Brad Keselowski's in the red now. And Ross Chastain in the red. But the points are still really close together. And then, of course, we saw that Martin Truex Jr. almost missed this round of the playoffs back at the top because everything resets. So
can I go on a soapbox for a second?
you know what? You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I want to talk about Martin Truex Jr. a little bit and some of the beef that I have with the people on the X Twitter, whatever site that horrible actor in Iron Man 2 had or owns now. He was an Iron Man 2. Yes, I found that out while in the hospital.
That's incredible.
I saw someone say Martin Truex Jr. doesn't deserve to be in the round of 12. Like he deserved to be knocked out.
Excuse me?
To which my response is, we have complained so long about this new format not caring about consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency in the regular season, consistency in the playoffs, just consistency in general. If Martin Truex Jr. isn't consistent this year, yes, he has wins. Don't get me wrong, he has 3 or 4 wins. But if he's not consistent this year, he doesn't win the regular series title, which brings him 15 bonus points for the playoffs. So then, and your argument is invalid because you are wrong about consistency. So Martin Truex Jr., well, yes, he had a horrible round 1 and burned up so many mulligans that he's probably unlucky for the rest of his life. He has every right to be in the round of 12. He earned that right. Just get over it. Like I saw that argument. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like he has every right to be there because he was consistent.
No, I will say, like, I do hate the reset at the beginning of each round. Like, I get that's how it is. That's fine. Because my thought process is, I mean, Truex got in by the skin of his teeth. And then making it to the next round is automatically rewarded by, you're back at the top of the board, kid. Congrats. Like, that I'm not a huge fan of. But it is, you are true. It's consistency through the regular season has helped him get to this point. And again, he deserves to be in this round because of that consistency. And because, yeah, he did barely make it in, but he made it in. Like, hard fought.
Yeah.
So got a lot of respect for him too. So I know he's still at this point championship favorites. We're talking about it. He's kind of left the picture just because the past 3 races he's kind of just sucked, like just straight up, unfortunately. In the picture now though, I mean Denny Hamlin, I feel like has become quite the favorite. I mean his team is hot at the right time. I mean before the playoffs started, he was my championship pick too. So I'm not gonna say I told you so right now because watch him like blow it and not win the championship because it's just going to happen. And I'm going to get really disappointed and sad.
Remember this internet.
Remember this, you guys. Just remember it. Who is it like aged poorly NASCAR?
Yeah, NASCAR tweets aged poorly or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll send it to him after this.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, no, like he, I think, is the favorite right now going into this next round. This is also a very chaotic round because you have Talladega on the Roval.
Right.
So yeah, this will be interesting to kind of see how all of this plays out. I want to also like shine a light on Kyle Busch because he's just kind of quietly there.
Yeah, he's just there.
So there's a chance, man. He can figure it out. This team won the race at Texas last year. Like, be interesting to see. And he won Talladega earlier this year, so he's a guy that
I was going to say this is a quiet round for Kyle Busch that he could just skate by and be fine. I mean, he's solid at road courses. I feel like he is. And then again, you mentioned the Texas the Texas win. That the 8 team won Texas last year, so they have a good setup. They have something figured out for that. Won at Talladega earlier this year. Our Sierra is strong at our super speedways. So this should be, all things considered, a good round for Kyle Busch. If it's not, though, yikes. But if there's anyone who I feel like should get through this round easily, because it is chaos, it is Kyle Busch. And something else that they mentioned on the broadcast, too, is that Denny Hamlin, they're like, Denny Hamlin has a chance to win every single one of these races in the next round. I don't think anyone else can. Maybe. Solid at super speedways. He's getting better at road courses. I mean, he's putting in the work there. And Texas, he's fine at. But I don't know. I would say Kyle Busch is more of a sure bet than Denny Hamlin would be this round. That's just my thoughts. But again, you're looking at equipment too.
If we're going off that logic, I have a chance to win the Super Bowl someday in my life. Like,
that's fair. That's true. Congrats, Ben, on your Super Bowl win. By the way, just preemptively.
Go Eagles. That's all that matters. But this is an interesting round. I'm excited to see how it goes overall.
So we'll see. But so I guess before we go, we don't like to give our picks away before we announce them Sunday. But if you had to name a pick for this race, like 2 drivers, so you can keep it kind of mysterious. Like 2 drivers you're looking at for Texas.
I'm going either Kyle Busch or Tyler Reddick, because that car won last year and that driver won last year. So like, I feel like one of those 2 have got to do it again, and I feel like Reddick. You all talked me down when I picked Reddick to make it to the championship round. You all talked me down. But guess what? I get back up. I stood up, and he stood up in Kansas, and no one believed me. So, like, he's good. Blaney's also a good pick, Shermanator.
I love this.
Blaney's a good pick. He won the All-Star race there a couple years ago. But, like, Busch or Reddick are my 2 picks for this weekend.
And I agree with you. It's, for me, I will say just straight up, spoiler alert, my 2 top picks for this weekend, whether I get them or not, I don't know, were Busch or Reddick. I think I had Reddick over Kyle Busch. So just, let's see. What?
No, I picked the same 2 people.
You did?
Yeah, I picked the same top 2. So
we're all screwed.
Brad Keselowski, here I come.
I love it. Honestly, I think I actually had Brad on my list too. Do we have the same list?
I'm not going to read it out loud right now because I don't want to get...
We're going to have to talk about this afterwards, for sure.
Contempt of court.
Larson too. Like, Larson's a good pick. I think I also had him on my list too. And I think I put Blaney there because, I mean, he won the All-Star race. My concern though is just the speed. I mean, to think that he's the last Penske car standing in this is nuts. Not to say, I mean, Blaney's a talented driver. He's great. But just with the year Penske's had, like, wow, what a time. So...
yeah, it's a wild situation all the way around.
Oh, well, anywho, you guys. So those are our kind of predictions on who will win Texas. But thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. It was a little bit of a longer stream, but I think it was totally a fun one. It was a good time.
That was a blast. Thanks for Stephen Mallozzi for hopping on, and apparently shout out to me for breaking his heart.
If you missed it, hey, you can go back and watch that interview right after we get off the live stream here. But yeah, we love Steven. We appreciate him joining us. If you want more of his work, his memoirs on racing, more reports from Ben and myself and everyone in between, make sure to go to tobychristie.com for more motorsports news, breaking news too. We do a great job at Toby Christie. I mean, I'm not like trying to be biased here, but I think we do a great job.
I think we're allowed to be biased for our employer.
You know what? That's fine. I'm not. This is me being biased and proud of it. We do a great job. So definitely check out tobychristie.com. Also check out abovetheyellowline.com, motorsports media your way, for more recent updates on what we do, what we have going on. And in case you're not sure of what the heck is Above the Yellow Line, my website will tell you. So make sure to check us out there. Social media pages, Above the Yellow Line. Normal episodes come out on podcasting platforms pretty much every single Monday. Sometimes we might have Sunday episodes that come out just based on timing, but most Mondays you'll see us on those podcasting platforms recapping the races. And then just to keep this in mind too, off season is fast approaching. We'll kind of have a content plan for you all very soon in that regards. And next weekend
we're watching Cars. We're gonna finish Cars 3.
We need to finish the Cars saga, so we will probably watch Cars 3 over the off season. But we have so much fun content coming to you guys. Also, special guest next week. Spencer Boyd is joining us on the stream next Thursday at 7 p.m. So make sure to tune in next week too. We have guests upon guests upon guests. Very excited about it. And for updates on who we're going to have as guests on our next stream, check out our social media pages. Of course, mine and Ben are on the screen. Like there are name tags. So like follow us there. And other places to follow us are also on the screen for you. Above the Yellow Line at _Taylor Kitchen _ and at Toby Christie. On all social media platforms. I'm going to stop rambling though. That was a long outro. I need to fix that, but that's okay. Thank you all so much for joining us this Thursday night. Thanks, Ben, for joining me as well.
Thank you for
this.
having me. It's always a
Great.
pleasure.
Of course. Awesome. Well, signing off, you all. Thanks so much and happy race weekend. Talk